Je me tais. En position. Feu.
I have a fairly mellow Discord if you want to join us there for a bit of conversation and debate. We have people from all over, really, and for the most part it's fairly good-natured and peaceful. As long as you come in that kind of spirit, you'll be fine. Hello lovelies. So I've been a bit slack on the video front this week, apart from the live show the morning after the night before on Grim Streams. Go and find it and subscribe. So there's a couple of things I want to cover in this video. I want to do a quick review, or an attempted review, of Vornheim. And on a related topic, I want to talk about people who have been or are being cancelled within the role-playing industry space. Vornheim first. So Vornheim is the setting for some of the D&D with Porn Stars shows from back in the day. But this isn't a guide to the city itself, rather it's a kit for generating Vornheim-like cities with bits and pieces within it. As a result, it's not a particularly coherent book. I guess it's in this style that we're calling art punk now, which has been latched onto with Morkborg and some other games. I quite like that style, but it isn't particularly coherent. Nor is it particularly easy to look anything up if you need to look anything up. So this isn't really a reference book, it isn't really a setting book, it is rather a set of tools and inspirations for making your own rather strange cities. And I would say that this is in the China Mayvillian sort of school of the new weird, very much. It may be a little too out there for some people, but certainly there's a lot of inspiration and ideas in here, but that makes it very hard to review. It's not hugely useful while you're playing, but if you're looking to generate a place in which to host a campaign or adventures, then you'll find it a lot more useful. I mean, it's just full of out there sorts of ideas, like drop tables, where you drop a dice onto the thing and then that determines statistics or location or those kind of things. So it's already kind of moving away from what you might consider to be old school mechanics and dice rolling and so on, and into something other. It's interesting. I don't know if it necessarily appeals hugely to the crowd that this is aimed at, but the book did very well in its time anyway. Otherwise, you have a lot of weird sketches, you have a lot of oddities and inspirations in fairly close type, and it just throws everything at you. It vomits everything up at you. There's a lot of random tables for creating things like louche nobles or things that are going on. It's all very random and phantasmagorical, so it's not something that needs to be read in order, that needs to be considered in order. It's not something you can particularly use as a reference. Rather, it is this kit for building cities with a few extended examples, and every page is crowded with stuff, and it just kind of barfs it up towards you. The one thing that's interesting is this idea for making quick on-the-fly layouts where you use words. He uses numbers. There are random word generators online which also make good ways of putting together roads and districts and suggesting the size of buildings and cities and so on, and then you can always fiddle with it. It's very similar to the way Chaos Magicians put together sigils, if that's anything that you understand. There's flowcharts, random tables, recommended reading. It's a caboodle box of stuff, just kind of vomited up at you, You go through it, you look for inspiration, you make a few notes, then you go away and make your own city. That's how I would use it. But you can open it pretty much at random. Let's pick a random page between 1 and 60 or so. Okay, page 8. Let's find something random from here. 3 ancient witches live secretly in Fornheim. Grey-haired Thorn, who's served by wild animals and creeping plants. Black-haired Dread, an illusionist and a deceiver. And pale-haired Frost, mistress of the numb, cold and frozen things. They roam the city disguised as young women, with their familiars, Wolf, Raven and White Owl respectively, likewise disguised. They scheme to subvert all human rule, summon the Ring Wolf, a circular demon who takes a form like a rolling wheel of coarse fur, with wolves' heads radiating from the rim, and enthrone Befagor, Lord of Beasts. And that's the kind of thing that you're going to find there. Just random, vomited weirdness. So how do you review something like this? Style? I mean, there's no denying the style. It might not be your cup of tea, but it is full of style. The text can be a little bit hard to read, a little bit hard to work your way through. The layout is relatively pedestrian compared to the rest of the effort that's gone into it. So I would give it a style 4 out of 5. In terms of substance, there is not a lot of definitive or defined substance here, but it does go to quite some lengths to impress that upon you. So you shouldn't be going into this expecting a highly detailed source book with everything laid out in black and white for you. So there's enough there. It's not hugely well laid out for reference and so on, but there's plenty there, and effectively, inspiration for untold amounts of games. So substance-wise, even given the relatively small size and the relatively high price, I'm going to give that 4 out of 5 as well. So a grand total of 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5. Well worth a purchase, except of course the author Zach S is a bit controversial. So now we get into that bit. At time of recording, Adam Koebal, however you pronounce it, who was part of the Far Verona controversy, where he ran a game with a somewhat sexual theme that was never particularly overt, that ended up having all of his players walk out on him. Now, he was slated to write like part of a Games Master guide for Modiphius, and his content has been dropped. That project has been dropped as a result of what happened on Far Verona. What happened? There was a semi-sexual scene with a robot PC, which was very slowly undertaken, with plenty of opportunity for people to express that they were creeped out or wanted it to stop. Behind the scenes, he was apparently using safety tools. Nobody used them. And yet, now a lot of people seem to want to take pleasure in what happened to Adam. I'm not one of them. I think we need to apply our principles as universally as possible. He didn't really do anything wrong other than completely fail to pick up on the vibe that his players were giving him, but he had his safety tools in place, things that I'm generally against, and just failed to pick up on the group. Does that mean all of his GM advice is useless? I mean, I think the problem there was the players and the atmosphere, and I would say the problem was the safety tools, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't have valuable insights, tools and so on to offer other games masters. Now, he didn't actually do anything to anyone. He described something that creeped people out a little bit, but with plenty of opportunities to stop the action and to step away from what was going on without creating a fuss. Zach, author of Vornheim amongst others, he has long been a combative bastard. I kind of empathise with his position. When D&D with Porn Stars first came along, he and the girls that he played with came in for a lot of stick, a lot of rumours were cast about, a lot of nastiness was put their way. And so he became very defensive and developed a siege mentality, and he was monomaniacal, autistic even, in the focus with which he would go after anyone who dissed him or any of his players, particularly his partner at the time, Mandy. So I can forgive most of that because I understand where he's coming from and what it's like to be in that position. He wasn't particularly good to me or nice to me, despite the fact that I was constantly sticking up for him and the girls. Never mind, principles are universal, remember, even for nasty bastards. But then he was accused by his partner, Mandy, of various sexual and physical relationship improprieties. And everyone dropped him like a hot potato. And it's had a severe financial impact on James Raggi and Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and upon others. It caused all kinds of problems around censorship on Drive-Thru RPG and so on. Yeah, it's an issue. Nothing was prosecuted. It was just an accusation. None of us really know how true or not it is. We have an accusation and a couple of backup statements. We have a countermanding claim with a bunch of witness statements. The only legal test to which it has been subjected thus far is a civil court case against someone for defamation, which Zach won. But it doesn't make any difference. He has been cancelled. He has had his work removed, and memory hold. It's caused all amounts of impact to other people, and yet there is no conviction. There is nothing definitive. A mere claim was enough. If we look at Adam Koebal, he had a game in which I think the fault was quite well divided between everyone involved, that went slightly awry and made a few people slightly uncomfortable, despite the presence of safety tools and all the rest of it. And now he is having work cancelled. Hasn't had anything removed from anywhere, so far as I'm aware, but that just goes to show how it's ratcheting up. And then another recent example is Shane Defreest, who's been accused of various improprieties, again of a sexual nature, by someone who has made a spate of these kind of accusations towards other people. And again, I don't know what's true in this case, you don't know what's true in this case, none of us know what's true in this case, but there's been no legal accusation, there's been no legal test of proof. So we should hold people to be innocent until they're proven to be guilty. This is the burden of proof. This is an underpinning of the Western legal system. And yet we have people losing work, losing reputation, being cancelled and memory hold, sunk out of sight. We lose the kind of talent that Zach definitely has on the basis of an accusation, not anything proven. Now, a lot of people make assumptions about why I stand up for these people, why I give them a voice, why I amplify their voices. And a lot of people assume it's because I must have done something bad, or that I support them or necessarily believe their version of events. Look, have the decency to ask me, and I will have the decency to tell you. It's the principle of the thing. Right? We have a court of public opinion in which people are being tried, convicted and executed without ever having any opportunity to even say anything in their defence. And so when someone is accused and when there is no proof either way, I think there is an unfair, unjust, unethical bias against hearing the other point of view. And that's why I amplify or I present the alternative point of view, whether it be Zach, whether it be Kevin Rolfe, whether it be Shane Defreest, whether it be Adam Koebal, whatever their politics or whatever else, I am going to do what I can to redress what I see as an unjust imbalance. It doesn't mean I believe them. It means I don't know, and that there is a process here We should establish guilt before we condemn someone, before we counsel them, before we memory hold their work, before we help drive a business to the brink of bankruptcy that only employed someone freelance to do work for them. There are consequences here. Cancel culture is a real thing, unless you have the kind of impetus or inertia keeping you going through the problems that cancelling creates. It can be massively impactful upon people's mental health, upon their business, their finances, their whole life. And we are condemning people and cancelling them far too frivolously, far too easily, without anything being proven. So what I am arguing for is not necessarily the truth of whatever Zach says, or Shane says, or Kevin says, or Adam says or does, or Warren Ellis, or anyone else. It's just trying to redress that balance, because what is happening at the moment is unjust, unethical, and unfair. Are we clear? I believe in due process. If you're going to skirt or avoid due process, if you're not going to subject your claims to due process and proper test, then I feel compelled to do what I can to redress the balance, to give the accused some sort of right or space to face their accuser, and to counter somewhat what is going on to the best of my ability. And if that's enough to cancel me, I think that's another huge worry. Don't you? Zach?
Machinations of the Space Princess is an old-school RPG with a sci-fi setting. The rules are familiar and at once innovative. Opened up so you can play literally any alien species you can envision. Purchase it at RPG Now or Lulu.com.